So James, full time here, and dare I say it, very evident from the camera, a sunny Semple Stadium here. Impossible to get away from the sun no matter how many we try, we try even. But I suppose that's the first thing really you have to say in terms of the impact of the game is it was really, I think the old-fashioned Galway saying it was sticky weather conditions out there.
Yeah, it was sticky and it was challenging. Like obviously the sun is a great way to play hurling. Say the pitch is obviously dry, the ball is dry, ball is travelling fast to say, but the conditions themselves, the heat down here on pitch side now, the heat is very prevalent. It's probably 25, 26 degrees. There's only so long a player of amateur status can last in this type of heat, and it was evident in today's performance that Clare after 60 minutes, let's say, they were beginning to die a small bit. The energy was beginning to go, and it was solely because of the heat. But they got some big moments, they got some big scores, and it kept them going, kept adrenaline going for them to see it out.
I suppose the one thing you would have to say really is, in terms of conditions like that, a good start is so important, and Clare got that blistered and start. Although initially I think it was 14 seconds. Wexford had gone over, Conor McDonald had gone over, and you thought here we goes, but then Clare put down the gas from there, really got a grip of the game for 10-15 minutes, say. Yeah,
it was up to the water break. I think if you take the Conor McDonald score out of it, I think Clare or Wexford were on the bus for 10 minutes. And just Clare, when they got their proper patch, they made real hay. Excuse the pun, but they made real hay in that kind of the fine weather. Into the water break there, I think there was sort of 7 or 8 points of the difference, and that was really the difference in end. Like the game kind of evened out after that. Kind of from 20 minutes onwards, it was really even keeled. It was kind of up and down. Both teams had their own purple patches, but when you look back as an overall result and you see 3 points to victory, I think it was the case of being at the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes is where Clare sealed the win.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I suppose if you, without going too dramatic a term, really, the half-time whistle probably came at the wrong time for Wexford, because initially it looked like that Clare had done all the damage, and then they grabbed hold of it. It was a flip of the coin back to the opposite direction. They were flying it before half-time.
They were flying it, yeah, and as I said, the Clare proper patch was the first 15 minutes, and they scored a plethora of scores. Half-time came, Wexford after scoring 5 points in a row. They were on the ascendancy. The crowd was behind them. They were gaining energy from winning frees, from winning their own puckouts, from getting good scores. So that came at the real wrong time. I think if the game went on for another 4 or 5 minutes, the gap would have closed even tighter. It went in as 5 points of a difference, and then the second half as a whole was pretty even keel. Worked out to being 3 points of a victory for Clare, but even the lead chain goal at the end was kind of more so of a consolation goal after the Garracoonie one below. So I think overall, like Wexford, if I'm assessing their performance as a whole, maybe their year as a whole, they kind of no real complaints. They were in both games against Kilkenny and Clare, and they lost both games. They could have won them absolutely, but I think they were beaten by 2 better teams on each day.
Okay, we'll speak about Clare being the better team on the day as well. What for you were the key differences, the key important phases in the play? Because it was quite tactical, particularly in the first half.
I wouldn't say phases per se. I think in the first half, Clare utilised space very well. They got their good players on the ball as best they could. They had a very, very good balance of score. So you had David Reedy, you had Aidan McCarthy, Ryan Taylor, all got 3 points each. Clare's bench contributed 1-2. So when you put that into context, that's 111. And you look overall, Clare's play from play was far better than that of Wexford. They scored 218 from play. They had a plethora of scores, and they just had a lot more influence across the park than Wexford had. Kind of when the second half came along, Wexford, they opted to route one duty, and they put Conor McDonald and Jack O'Connor at the edge of the square, trying to go just route one and see could they get anything off a break. They got a couple of breaks. Probably should have had a penalty when McDonald was fouled, and the lead chain goal came off a bit of a break as well. So, but again, overall, I say when you balance it all together, Clare were the better team.
And despite all that, you'd have to say yes, he was immaculate from the every place ball pretty much, Tony Kelly, but I think he got one in particular, one's from memory across the far side of the stand here in the first half, out the kind of, is it Joe Canning territory we call it, where he was pretty much halfway in the stand and he swung it over. Aside from that, you have to say, I thought Wexford they'll probably be quite pleased from that aspect of play. He didn't do a lot of damage from open play. Yeah,
I think if you were to set out and try to keep Tony, now what I say, relatively scoreless, so that's keeping them below 15 points, 16 points, what we see now in the last few months, including league form. They would have been happy with the way they marshalled them. But again, overall, he came up in link play. He was there for some capacity. He was there, assisting more so today than scoring, and like that, others did the work around him. So when your top players have, I wouldn't call it an off day, but when they're not as influential as they usually are, you want the guys around it to do the scoring and do the work for them.
Yeah, look at the bigger picture now. Clare going forward, that's we didn't know what way they would react in a way, because that sin bin decision was talked about to death. I think has been a line in the sand. We saw today that a couple of them, there was probably one or two of them there that might have mellowed in that situation on another day gone past. But they there was a good few situations like that really. Where do Clare go from now? That they showed, I thought, impressive character to come back. How far can they go on to this championship? It's a couple of good performances.
Yeah, I think if the games were coming in 2 or 3 weeks intervals, okay, I think you'd have Clare. I'd give them a lot bigger of a shout. The way it's going to happen now is the games are going to come on the weekly. So what you're going to have to do is they're going to have to kind of come down from today's game and then get back up for next week's game. And I just think it's probably time and energy is going to catch them. It's not for want of skill or for want of effort, etc. It's just the time and energy. And can they get through this period and keeping the same energy levels as teams are going facing, who'll have, let's say, for example, Galway or Cork next week will have had no game obviously this weekend. They're coming in fresh. Their injuries had a chance to recover. I look at John Conlon and Aaron Shannon coming off, and they look kind of laboured, So what kind of injuries are going to get out of this today's game? That's going to be their biggest thing. Mentally, can they focus on next week, not being too tired? And obviously from the body perspective, can they get through today's game, or have they got through today's game actually without any injuries? And then if they come through next weekend, it's the same thing again. They're into someone who's obviously lost a provincial final, so the opposition is getting better, the time is getting less, and the energy levels are dropping a bit too.
I suppose that situation is probably a situation that you and the Galway panel from a couple of years ago, but you found out to the detriment as well, where I think eventually Limerick kind of had that. Now, don't get me wrong, there's other aspects, but it was definitely a factor in the play as well, where they've gone through a series of difficult games. Actually, the two against Clare as well were a big impact as well. How difficult is that, just to keep going to the well every week?
It's very hard. Again, the two replays we had, one in Kilkenny in the Leinster final and one against Clare in the semi, were here. Both very hot days. There were two games that we kind of, I suppose, hadn't planned for. You looked at the calendar at the start of the year, and just every game we played that year in the championship, kind of we had to go to the well. We had to it came down to the last few minutes. We didn't have a large margin of victory in most games. So when the games came thick and fast, they were coming on the week every 6-7 days. As I said earlier, it's very hard to get down from a high and get back up for a team the next week, because just again time is the issue. And then injuries is the biggest thing for a team who's coming through games on a quick period over 6 or 7 days. Can you keep your team relatively fit? Can you keep your good players injury free, and can you keep energy levels high, both on the training ground, so you're getting use out of your training, and on the pitch in the day of the game, so you can keep to the pitch of opposition.
I suppose just to swing the conversation back a little bit to the game that's just happened here, Wexford came short in the end. If you break the game down in a quick summary, a wobbly start grew into it, nearly another bit of wobbly start, and Clare got control, and then a late rally, and who knows what will happen a different day. But look, we can't help, as a manager that you've talked about a good bit. Obviously you have your own circumstances as well with them, but Davy Fitz coming forward now as well. I suppose whether what way you want to viewpoint, you have to say that the team did rally for him at the end. They looked hungry to try and get back into the game, but overall, where does the situation go from here now with him?
Yeah, I think it was interesting, for the first 11 minutes, he was up in the stand, kind of taking a high position, and I suppose on the back of Wexford's performance in that 11 minutes, he came back down, and the team grew in motivation, and they grew in energy, you could say, when he got on the touchline. There's no doubt what he's done for Wexford has been fantastic. He's brought a huge emphasis to hurling in the county, which probably wasn't there since '96, if I'm honest. They've brought great professionalism. Everything about Wexford now is professional, and they're in the top tier, top 6 or 7 teams in the country every year now, whereas probably in years previous they weren't. And that's probably down to Davy, the team he's brought in with him, the people he's brought with him, the systems he's put in place, and the energy he's installed into the county, that comes with him. But I think at the moment now, looking from Wexford over the last number of years, and their high point being a Leinster final win, obviously, but over the way they've went out of the championship over the last couple of years, and the way they've been beaten by the bigger teams the last couple of years, I think it's probably a change is likely.
You think there will be a change of personnel at the management here?
I do. I think a change is as good as a break for this team. So I think a change in management or a change in style might rejuvenate the team even further.
Okay, and then to look forward now, as you said, the draw is going to be kind of eagerly anticipated. Of course, you with your Galway hat on as well, from Galway are back in this, as our Corker as well. Some tasty affairs to look forward to. We'll see what way the balls will work and what way they'll come out in the permutations or whatnot. But some juicy games ahead, no matter what way it goes. Yeah,
I haven't seen the Waterford game, but that was a very tight affair down in Nolan Park with Laois, and where they might have been expecting to come through with a bit of ease now has turned out to be the opposite. So they're going to have tired bodies as well and tired minds. Open draw on Monday, so Galway can play either Waterford or Clare. Who would I rather? It makes no odds, to be honest. Whoever you play, you have to get knocked out. So it's simple as that. And both teams carry equal quality. Obviously Clare beat Waterford in the Munster Championship, but the way they are now and the trajectory come on the back of a win, both teams are kind of have the tails up a small bit. So I won't say relatively confident, but I'd be confident in Galway's ability to come through either Waterford or Clare, especially after two battle-hardened results this week for both teams.
And how do you think, lastly on that they've had the bye week, which some will, there's an argument either way. I think the consensus really that Galway would have been better off taking that week to recharge post-mortem and then look forward to whoever the opposition are. But that must be a difficult situation to manage as well. You're kind of watching, keeping an eye on games, you're trying to get your body right as well, and you're still getting over a defeat like that as well.
Yeah, I suppose watching games and watching other teams is that's the job for others, not the job for the player. So you've got an analysis team there and a management team who their sole focus is on preparing for the next game, and so you have people off the pitch who will have analysed Clare and Waterford to death and will know every nook and cranny about their performance and about their personnel and the way they like the patterns of play, etc. So I think the Galway players themselves, they needed the bye week, if I'm honest. They needed to kind of, I suppose, nearly grieve a small bit after the Dublin game to analyse where things went wrong, what kind of systems can they put in place to improve, then get that system in place over last week or the last 10 days, and then look forward to a championship game coming next week.
Well, let's hope the sun is back. We better let you go in out of it there before you get melted away altogether.
Thanks, Jonathan. Goodbye.